You do not have to stay anywhere that does not feel good to you. And if a therapist makes you feel guilty for wanting to work with somebody else, run. Hey friends, welcome back to the Millennial Mama Memo podcast, a weekly memo from your favorite Millennial Mama therapist. I'm Lauren, a late diagnosed ADHDer, mom of two, licensed therapist, and founder of Millennial Mama Therapy. I built the Millennial Mama universe for moms just like me who are figuring out who they are on the other side of becoming a mom. I work with moms all throughout California, and I also host 2 free virtual support groups for moms everywhere. If you're new here, hi, I'm so glad that you found me. And if you're a regular, welcome back. Let's get into it. All right, friends, welcome back. And let's try to get into it for today. I've been sitting here for the past 20 minutes trying to get myself to record, not because I don't want to record today. I do, but what's been happening is I have been texting and messaging with so many of my friends this morning. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, all of these people live in my phone. Like the friends that I have been texting this morning who are genuinely friends of mine are like, just this morning, I was texting with a parent coach / child development expert, a pelvic floor PT, a perinatal pregnancy postpartum chiropractor, multiple therapists, and more that I can't even think of. Plus also talking to my office mate who is an IBCLC, an international board certified lactation consultant. And anyway, it's cracking me up because we're talking about just life and being moms and friendship things and all of that. And so it just reminded me of, why I love the matchmaker hours and all of that, where genuinely it's so stupidly easy for me to get people connected and with the resources they need. It's like one of those things that like my brain just doesn't understand of why it can be so hard for us as a patient. Like even me, like when I'm a patient, when I'm a client, to find what I need, but it can be so easy for somebody else who is like, that professional, even if it's not the exact same like field or type of provider, it's because it just can be so easy for us to find other people. So anyway, that is my a little spiel about trying to get in and get locked in and focused and ready to record for today, and being distracted by all of my lovely friends who are also amazing perinatal providers and would love to work with any of you guys. All right, diving into the Millennial Mama mix, which is a little bit of everything on my radar as a millennial mom and person. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the T in my match framework. And again, my match framework is the 5 lenses that I bring to every type of work that I do with people, whether it is clinical or non-clinical. And so again, the MATCH is an acronym. It stands for Mom, Advocate, Therapist, Connector, and Human. And so today, in talking about a therapist, the therapist component of it, I wanted to circle back to something that I had hinted at a couple of weeks ago, where I had said, ooh, I need to come back to this and talk about it. And that is how to break up with your therapist. So this is a question and a challenge that so many people have. I have experienced it with, people sitting across from me going, I don't know how to end this. And I'm like, don't worry, I got you. When they're ready to graduate from therapy with me or ready to end our therapeutic relationship for whatever the reason. So one, I just want to normalize that if you feel awkward about having a DTR, a define the relationship conversation with your therapist, you are not alone. And honestly, there's ways like in grad school where clinically as therapists we're taught like, hey, these are reasons for termination, which is, it sounds so official, but like that's the clinical language we use. It's like the termination of treatment, the termination of the therapeutic relationship, whatever. So we'll talk about it on this like clinical level, but then also like there's a piece of like, it's a bit of a breakup. Like we don't always, I feel like in grad school, we're not always taught a ton about the relationship side of it. So in the past, when I've gone through friendship breakups or I've had friends go through friendship breakups, one of the things that I have kind of noted to myself and to others is that I think friendship breakups can be hard and awkward because of the fact that we don't really have a blueprint for it. Like with romantic relationships, there's always this sort of thing of like, we have a blueprint for how things kind of go. in general when a romantic relationship comes to an end. When you go enter into a romantic relationship with somebody, you already kind of have the end in mind. Not that you're anticipating or planning to end the relationship, but just like, hey, if it gets to that point where the relationship needs to end, that's kind of what this looks like. With friendships, we don't have that, which I think is why sometimes friendship breakups can be even more devastating than romantic relationship breakups, because we just don't have a blueprint for what to do. It's just so unexpected. Nobody starts a friendship thinking about the end of the friendship. And so in coming back to that therapeutic relationship and how to break up with your therapist, hopefully your therapist, when they begin the therapeutic relationship with you and vice versa, you begin the therapeutic relationship with them, hopefully they have the end in mind and are already talking to you about the end in mind from the beginning. Not because like, oh, you're not going to be with me for long, or I don't like you, or whatever, but just because we don't really have a blueprint for, as a society, we don't really have a blueprint about, how a therapeutic relationship ends. I feel like because of like confidentiality and things like that, like therapists don't always talk super widely about it or talk about like all the ins and outs, because we want to protect clients and their confidentiality, stay within our legal mandates, all of that sort of stuff. But then also like there's been so much stigma around therapy, mental health, all that stuff for pretty much forever. We're starting to, get a lot better about that, a lot more open about it. And so clients kind of come in and don't really know what that looks like either. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that with you guys and share with you some of my perspective about it. And I'm not going to say this is the best way or every therapist should do this. I'm just sharing with you my way. So I like to always begin the therapeutic relationship with the end in mind. I like to call out that it's a very unique thing where it's like we have this business relationship, like we can't be besties. We cannot be best friends. There is a clinical piece that helps keep the clients safe so that way they can say whatever they need to in the therapy setting and not have to worry about caring for the therapist. And at the same time, there's also a personal relationship developing in the sense that you should like your therapist. If there is a personality mismatch, if there is something about them where you're like, I just don't like that. I don't like how they view the world. I don't like how they approach this. I don't like how they do this. They interrupt me too much. I don't like their style. That is totally a valid reason to not work with that therapist, because you have to like them as a person, or at least how they present, So I like to always talk with my clients about that, even on the consultation call before we're starting. If at any point you don't think I'm the right therapist for you, if at any point this doesn't feel right for any reason, I'm not going to be offended. Please let me know, because I would love to help get you connected with the right therapist, because I firmly believe that you're not going to accomplish your goals in therapy unless you are in the right therapeutic relationship. So there's kind of this element of like dating around for your therapist a little bit. So then when it comes time for the breakup, like I said, hopefully your therapist has had this conversation with you at the beginning of this is what that looks like. When we get close to the end, or when we feel like we're getting to the end, this is how we handle it. And so for me, what that looks like is I try to be consistently checking in with my clients about how are you feeling? How are you thinking about how you're doing? Do you feel like you're starting to accomplish your goals? If I start to sense that we're having a lot of those types of sessions where it's like, oh, we're just kind of like shooting the breeze, like general life updates or things like that, that's one of my cues. Just check in with my client about how they're doing. Do they think that it's time to graduate from therapy? Do they think that it's maybe time to transition to a different therapist? Are there different goals that we need to that maybe they've identified that we need to touch on and work on? Do they maybe need to try a different form of treatment, etc.? Now, that being said too, if your therapist is not noticing some of those things and is not broaching the topic, and you are noticing things and going, this is uncomfortable, I don't like this, this just doesn't feel like the right thing anymore. One, I want to give you permission to not worry about hurting your therapist's feelings, because in that moment, their feelings do not matter. Their feelings, like, it's a business relationship. Like, think of it the same way as if you were hiring someone to like redo the plumbing in your house. If you didn't like what they were doing, if it wasn't feeling good, you wouldn't feel bad about firing them and finding the next right person. Your therapist is like the plumber for your brain and for like, your emotions, your relationships, things like that. And so if it doesn't feel good, you have a say and you can end that. So don't forget that. Okay. Obviously you can be kind. I'm a really big believer that clarity is kindness. So be clear. be honest. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be mean, but you can just say, hey, I just want to be honest with you that this isn't meeting my needs. And I think that I would like to transition and work with somebody else. Now, your therapist, if you're open to it, they may say, hey, well, let's talk about this a little bit. Is there something that we can do? What is it that's making you uncomfortable or doesn't feel like it's working? Is this something we can troubleshoot together? But if you already know, you can be honest and say, no, I don't want to troubleshoot this any further. I just want to be honest with you that this is going to be our last session together. Da, 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 da. Now, your therapist obviously should care about supporting you in what you think is best for your needs, your mental health, etc., such as transitioning to a new therapist, finding another form of treatment, etc. Now, they may have some considerations or pushbacks for you, and I want to be clear that you don't have to stay. And if they're offering you some clinical considerations or feedback or things like that, you can take those in, you can evaluate, and you can decide, yeah, I want to factor that in, or no, I don't. So for example, when people, tell me like, hey, I think I'm ready, I always want to check with them about like, well, let's go back to your original goals and let's see what else is going on. Or if they're saying, hey, I want to work with somebody else or I want to try something else, then I always like to just ask those clarifying questions and make sure that I understand. So sometimes when they're asking follow-up questions, it's not because they're trying to get you to stay. It is because they want to make sure that they understand. And then fingers crossed, hopefully, so they can best support you in that transition, helping to connect you with the next right person to work with you, how to transfer, your documentation and clinical record over, being able to do releases of information. So that way they can bring your next therapist up to speed if that is something you want. Important caveat there. So anyway, I think my biggest tips for breaking up with your therapist, just be clear, be honest about it. You can be kind, but you can also be clear. Kindness is clarity. You do not have to stay anywhere that does not feel good to you. And if a therapist makes you feel guilty for wanting to work with somebody else, run. Because the therapeutic relationship is not about us as a therapist. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's this like really like delicate balance, dialectic and things like that. And as therapists, yeah, we might have feelings about somebody breaking up with us, and it might cause us to like question, like, I don't know, do one of those therapist death spirals of, oh my God, I'm a terrible therapist and da, 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 da. But as a client, that is not for you to handle. That should never, ever, ever be put on you. If a therapist is feeling that, that is a sign that they need to reach out to mentors, to supervisors, to colleagues, and that they need to get some clinical consultation around that, and that they may need to go back to therapy themselves. So your therapist's feelings are not your concern, and don't let anyone put that on you. Okay, so hopefully that helps to kind of answer that question a little bit about how to break up with your therapist. Now, if you have follow-up questions about that or want me to touch on anything more specific, please feel free to shoot me a DM over on Instagram, and I will definitely bring it up in a future episode. All right, moving on to the favorites folder, which is good stuff I can't stop talking about that you should know about. And today I just want to share with you guys a little mantra or reminder that I have been repeating to myself a lot recently, and that is to just let it be easy if you can. Meaning there are so many things in life that are challenging and hard and complex that we don't have control over. And so if there's ways in our life with things we do have control over that we can let it be easy, let's let it be easy. So for example, buying pre-chopped veggies. Did you know you can get pre-chopped onions at like the grocery store? I didn't until like earlier this year, and that's freaking amazing. Frozen vegetables, just having frozen vegetables on hand, using micellar water, having that on hand, or a makeup wipe on hand. So that way at the end of the day, when you are exhausted and you're like, I'm just going to crash and fall asleep, fall in bed, you can just still wash your face super, super fast. If you have a favorite shirt or pair of pants, buy it in several colors. If you like how it looks on you and you feel good when you wear it, buy it in several colors, or buy several in all the same color. So that way it's always easy to find something that you like to wear that you feel good in. Getting boring socks that you don't have to match. I still love the sock hack of buying just plain white socks for my kids. And actually, I started doing that for myself. So that way I don't have to match and pair up my socks. They're just plain white ones, boring. Maybe keeping restocks of your favorite items on hand, things that you use frequently. But for those of you who have ADHD like me, only buy one restock and only if you will not forget that you have it. Those of us who are neurodiverse tend to have object permanence issues. If we cannot see it, it does not exist. So for example, like keep your favorite sunscreen, your favorite moisturizer, your favorite shampoo or whatever. Just keep like one extra bottle on hand. So that way, when you run out, you immediately have one to replenish it with. But don't keep several on hand, because I made that mistake and I definitely forgot that I had them, and it was like rebuying, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. So anyway, I just hope that that's a nice reminder for you guys. My brain doesn't make habits. ADHD brains tend to not be good at making habits. Like one of my friends said to me, I have never once in my life woken up, gotten out of bed and brushed my teeth without actively thinking about brushing my teeth. And I was like, yep, that's me. I don't just do things on autopilot out of habit. So if we can make things easy, if we can, make things boring, awesome. All right, next is Pink Couch Post-its, updates, hot takes, and things worth knowing from the Millennial Mama universe. So today is August 3rd, and we are starting to get back into back to school mode over here. And what that always signals to me is that therapy world is about to start getting busy. Summertime tends to be a slump for a lot of therapists because people are going on vacation, kids are off of school, everyone's off their normal routines. But then as soon as school comes back and we're in the fall, that is when therapists really start to get busy. People are getting back into their normal routines, etc. I was actually just texting a friend of mine earlier today that there's a pending sense of doom beginning to gather as we approach the craziness of going back to school, which is then rapidly followed by the holiday season. So just wanted to put that little note in your brains that my availability is going to be booking up. And also remember to be thinking about your cupboard space for the holidays now. What are your yeses, your maybes, your nos, all of that, because the holidays are coming. And finally, we come to one last thing, which is where I invite you to join the Millennial Mama universe. You can do that by subscribing to In Case You Missed the Memo, my weekly newsletter, as well as the Millennial Mama podcast, what you're listening to right now, if you're not already subscribed. You could also join a support group. I have two, Mama Mess Hall and the Break Room. You could also book a Matchmaker Hour, which is a non-clinical call designed to get you connected with local supports and resources. While my referral network is strongest here in the Sacramento and California area, I'm always expanding my network. So even if you're out of state, I've got you covered too. And if you are in California and you're ready to do something about that thing you've been carrying for a long time, it's time for an ART intensive. These are 4 appointments over 4 to 6 weeks with a defined goal and treatment endpoint. I have 4 slots open in August as well as openings in September. But like I said, I anticipate my availability is going to book up pretty quickly as we head into the fall and back into the school year. So I recommend booking your consultation call today. All right, friends, that's your Millennial Mama memo for the week. Head to the link in my bio to subscribe to my newsletter in case you missed the memo so you never miss a memo. And I'll see you next week.